Yemenis remember September 21, 2014 as a setback against state institutions. Yemen's unofficial truce faces new challenges as Saudi Houthi talks bear no clear outcomes. Presidential Council intensifies diplomacy in New York to seek crucial support for peace in Yemen. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Roshan Fuad. September 21, 2014 is when the Houthis seized the capital Sana'a. This day marks the memory of years of suffering, displacement and injustice. The Houthi coup was meant to target state institutions and the Republican regime. The following report gives more details.
The day of darkness, the 21st of September, in which Yemenis remember the collapse of the Republic of Yemen, caused by the Houthi militia and its partners that entered the homeland into a dark tunnel and destroyed the landmarks of the country and its institutions that were built for 3 decades. The lives of the Yemenis turned into hell and the war began. It spread wide across all the Yemeni government and ignited its fires towards the citizens. They planted mines and explosive devices and displaced the people from their areas and homes to settle in the modest camps inside the desert of Ma'rib suburbs. Most of them lack the simplest elements of life.
This dreadful day brought the Yemeni people into a spiral of suffering, where mines were planted, houses were blown up, roads were cut off, and the displaced were scattered throughout Yemen without education, salaries, services or good health services. Since the Houthi took over the capital Sana'a in 2014, they've turned the life of Yemenis into hell. They cut salaries, bombed homes and schools, displaced citizens and blocked roads. People began to suffer from a lack of salaries, and this is the Houthis' policy of starving the people to take revenge on them.
The Yemenis endured the ugliest and most severe suffering and paid the bill for a war ignited by the Houthi militia supported by Iran ever since. The hideous history in which the militia coming from the cave invaded the country's institutions and turned them into spoils for its members, while leaving the people without income or jobs, besieged by prices and crises that follow daily in places of displacement due to fires. Moreover, the absence of water, medicine and petroleum derivatives, and they became surrounded by a complex life that the people had not known since the era of the rule of Hamid-ad-Din dynasty.
This is the 9th year since September 21st on Yemeni people, during which they endured all methods of oppressions, homelessness and loss of salaries, thefts, burdens of levies, as well as imprisonment, torture and enforced disappearance of people. People lost the meaning of having a homeland and longed for September the 26th and for the freedom and dignity. Therefore, we notice an increase in people's call for popular resistance.
Since September 21st, 9 years ago, Yemenis have lost their honorable lives, and the most horrific crimes, oppression and brutality have been committed against them. Thousands of innocent people were kidnapped by the militia and taken to secret detention centers until today, at a time when thousands were killed. They are at a war while those who fled from oppression of the militia are surrounded by difficult living conditions that drag them towards hunger and death as they search for a living that has become unattainable.
UN Special Envoy for Yemen Hans Grunberg welcomed the recent visit by Houthi delegation to Riyadh. Grunberg expressed gratitude for the efforts of Saudi Arabia and Oman to facilitate the resumption of an intra-Yemeni political process under the auspices of the UN. Despite the end of the truce last October, it is still holding, and the recent Saudi-Houthi talks have raised hopes of extending the truce and achieving a permanent ceasefire. Yet Houthis' unlimited demands seem to hinder the recent 5-day talks with Saudi officials in Riyadh. The following report has more details.
Ongoing negotiations have yielded some positive developments, but experts warn that official peace remains elusive. Houthi officials returned to the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, which they control, on Tuesday following 5 days of Oman-mediated negotiations in Riyadh, the Saudi capital. While no official agenda has been released, the talks reportedly focused on long-term ceasefire agreements, a timeline for the withdrawal of foreign troops, allocating oil revenues to pay civil servants, and easing access to Houthi-controlled Sana'a International Airport and the Hodeidah port. Last October, a 6-month ceasefire in Yemen's civil conflict expired. Nonetheless, the external forces supporting the warring groups, Saudi Arabia and Iran, have maintained an unofficial truce since April. Despite a halt to rebel Houthi militia attacks and Saudi-led airstrikes, there is still fighting along the front lines between Houthi and government-held areas, including in the Dala Governorate and the city of Taiz, both located in the center of the country. Positive improvements in Iran-Saudi ties have led to direct discussions between Riyadh and the Houthi rebels in April, as well as the reopening of Sana'a Airport and Hodeidah Seaport, both of which had been closed since the outbreak of the conflict. Furthermore, the United Nations facilitated a successful offloading of oil from a decaying tanker, the FSO Safer, off the coast of Yemen, preventing an environmental calamity. However, dire economic conditions persist for Yemenis across the nation, and official negotiations are required to address the civil war's core issues and end the humanitarian crisis. After 8 years of conflict, the national socio-economic systems of Yemen remain on the edge of total collapse. While conflict, large-scale displacement, and recurrent climate shocks have left families vulnerable to communicable disease outbreaks. Millions of children lack access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene services, and the country continues to experience regular outbreaks of cholera, measles, diphtheria, and other vaccine-preventable diseases.
U.S. Special Envoy Tim Lenderking sees a moment of opportunity and hope for Yemen after years of war, praising Saudi Arabia and the Houthis. The conflict has calmed and the UN helped broker a 6-month ceasefire. Yemeni-led peace processes are crucial with a roadmap needed for self-peace. This report has more details.
Washington is seeing a moment of opportunity and hope for Yemen after years of war. Lenderking praised both Saudi Arabia and Houthis during an event at the Asia Society in New York, where both sides were discussing the future of Yemen and how peace can come. The conflict, which began in 2014 when the Houthi overthrew Sana'a government, has calmed in recent months. In April last year, the United Nations helped broker a 6-month ceasefire, which expired in October. Diplomatic activity in Yemen has continued at the United Nations General Assembly. Yemen has been a major topic of discussion during a high-level week, with the Saudi delegation arriving in New York as a Houthi delegation completed their first visit to Riyadh. Omani foreign minister said a roadmap is needed for Yemen to be at peace with itself and stressed the need for a Yemeni-led process for peace. Lenderking referenced the recent UN-led operation that removed over 1 billion barrels of oil from a decaying supertanker off the coast of Yemen, calling it a metaphor for the current progress being made. The operation, which helped to avert an environmental disaster in the Red Sea, required the help of so many people. His comments came a day after UAE Minister of Foreign Affairs, Saudi Foreign Minister, and U.S. Secretary of State met to discuss the situation in Yemen. According to a readout from the U.S. State Department, the three leaders discussed their commitment to a durable resolution to the conflict in Yemen, in close coordination with Yemeni parties.
The British Royal Navy announced seizing about half a ton of drugs during a search of a suspicious ship in the Northern Arabian Sea. The spokeswoman for the British government in the Middle East and North Africa confirmed it on her account on X platform. According to the spokeswoman, the operation carried out by the ship aimed to combat illegal activities such as smuggling. Reports issued by civil society organizations reveal that the number of orphans in Yemen reached 1,300,000 people. According to the report, 70% of these orphans cannot complete their studies, 5% have disabilities, and more than 60% of orphans' families lack services. The need for health care, unable to buy medicine, and that the war left approximately 130,000 orphans. Defense Minister Mohsen Al-Dari chaired an expanded meeting of the heads of the Ministry of Defense bodies to review developments in the field. The heads of the defense bodies provided reports on the progress of performance and identified the needs required to enhance efforts and implement tasks with a higher degree of efficiency. The head of the Presidential Council doubled diplomatic efforts to seek more support for peace in Yemen. This report has more details.
At the UN General Assembly in New York, the Yemeni Presidential Leadership Council President Rashad Al-Alimi highlighted his country's crisis, rallying global backing to pressure Houthis for a durable and comprehensive peace. Al-Alimi continued his meetings in New York, which included discussions with the Secretary General of the Arab League, the UAE Foreign Minister, and UN officials, as reported by Yemeni official sources. During his meeting with the Secretary General of the Arab League, Al-Alimi discussed the Yemeni situation and the mediation efforts by Saudi Arabia and Oman to renew the ceasefire and launch a comprehensive political process under UN guidance. Additionally, Al-Alimi met with Sheikh bin Zayed, the UAE Minister of Foreign Affairs, and updated him on the Yemeni situation and the prospects for achieving a fair and comprehensive peace, based on agreed-upon national, regional, and international frameworks. Al-Alimi also had discussions with the administrator of the United Nations Development Programme. In those discussions, Al-Alimi focused on various UN development interventions and coordinated efforts with the international community to secure additional funding for more sustainable and effective programs in Yemen. Al-Alimi also praised the UN's shift from relief to sustainable development and shared his observations regarding certain UN interventions, including the necessity to hold support directed towards the Houthis in the field of mine clearance. In other news, Yemeni Foreign Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak emphasized that the food security crisis in his country is a direct result of the nearly 9-year-long war waged by the Houthis. He pointed out that understanding the root causes of this crisis and the deterioration of essential services in the country are crucial elements in finding a solution.
Coming next. Workshops in ties lack basic professional safety standards.
I'm Jean-Nicolas, the UNHCR representative in Yemen, and I would like to provide you an update on the situation on the ground. As you probably know, Yemen has been labeled one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. A staggering number of 80% of the population indeed relies on our humanitarian aid for their daily survival. Now, the coronavirus is spreading very fast within these impoverished and weakened communities. We know how to save life, but UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is lacking critical funding. 1.2 million displaced by the conflict will not receive emergency shelter kits, and therefore will have to live in the open, subject to the element and to abuse. Will not receive cash assistance, which allows them to buy medicine or food for their children or their elderly parents. On top of that, we won't be able to continue our protection activities, which are critical in a country in conflict. We need you. Yemeni people need you today. Will you make a life-saving gift today?
Welcome back. Workers in ties, especially those working in workshops, lack basic professional safety standards. This poses great risk on their health. This report has more details.
In Al-Wazaya district in Taiz, artisanal blacksmithing has fallen out of demand, and the craft's financial returns have grown insufficient to cover basic needs. With the cost of steel clambering to unattainable prices, artisans have resorted to hammering daggers out of debris.
As workshop artisans, we struggle with poor income levels that barely cover our basic needs. In addition, in our field, workers are prone to eye problems and physical injuries. Work is very slow nowadays. There used to be a lot more traffic in this workshop.
The volume of production has declined significantly after the war. Fewer people seek blacksmithing as a profession due to workshop rentals, materials, and apprentices and caterers growing more expensive.
Prices have skyrocketed. Materials we used to source for 9,000 now cost 90,000 riyals. Rentals are also prohibitively expensive, and the profit we make can't even cover rent. The war has stripped us of everything.
The war and its devastating repercussions, most notably the collapse of the national currency, are the primary causes of the reduction in output and the scarcity of employees in this industry. Taiz has been systematically blockaded and attacked by the Houthi militia since 2015. The siege has suffocated the city, caused mass displacement and starvation, and resulted in thousands of deaths.
Yemeni antiquities experts continue to uncover smuggled Yemeni antiquities, which are displayed at international auctions. The recent incident was discovered in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv, where a bronze statue will be offered for sale at public auction on October 3rd. According to the expert, the bronze statue is of a young man from the antiquities of Yemen. The United States of America returned two antiquities to Yemen after they were smuggled. The Metropolitan Museum in New York said that it had returned two artifacts to Yemen, but it would continue to display them in its collection on loan. The two works are two sculptures. One of them represents a standing female figure wearing a bracelet and necklace made of sandstone. The electricity crisis hit Aden again, with power outage hours increasing to about 18 hours every 24 hours. A source at the Aden General Electricity Corporation explained that the generating capacity of the Petro Mazilia station decreased from 90 to 60 megawatts. The source added that about 4 fuel tankers arrived at the station on a daily basis, while it needs twice that amount, which is reflected in the performance of the service towards the citizens. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Yemenis remember September 21, 2014 as a setback against state institutions. The unofficial truce faces new challenges as Saudi Houthi talks bear no clear outcomes. Presidential Council intensifies diplomacy in New York to seek crucial support for peace in Yemen. This is the end of the news. It was Roshan Fouad. Thank you for watching.